In ancient China, a land steeped in tradition and history, the stories of women's struggles are as old as time itself. While much of ancient Chinese culture is revered for its wisdom and beauty, there exists a darker, often forgotten side, a realm of unsettling actions, creepy behaviors, and outright oppression that women had to endure at the hands of men. But what were the most unsettling practices employed by men in positions of power to control and manipulate women in ancient China? What compelled men to engage in these strange actions? And how did these eerie practices shape the course of history for Chinese women? Well, stick around to discover the answers to these questions and more as we delve into the unsettling past of ancient China. These are the creepy things men have ever done to women in ancient China. In ancient China, a land rich with history, tradition, and mystique, a darker underbelly of tales exists, where women were often subjected to some truly unsettling and, at times, downright creepy actions by men. These stories, though centuries old, still resonate with an eerie resonance, offering a glimpse into the intricate and often oppressive dynamics of gender roles and power imbalances that prevailed in ancient Chinese society. We usually hear a lot about emperors, philosophers, and warriors from that time, but the stories of women's lives often remain hidden. What's surprising is that even the smallest mistakes could lead to very tough punishments. The ancient Chinese rulers didn't go easy on anyone, whether they did something minor or committed a big crime. These weren't just regular punishments. They were really severe and cruel. It was so severe that the term Chinese torture is known around the world to describe some of the scariest situations one can imagine today. In a society that has always tried to keep its people living peacefully together, the punishments they used were quite extreme. They went from doing things that would leave a permanent mark on a person to causing the most excruciating pain that often resulted in death. The punishments for women in ancient China were really terrible. They had their own list of tortures, and it was no better than what the men had to endure. Even though some punishments were a bit easier for women, it doesn't mean they got off easy. Depending on what they did, they could even lose their lives. Sounds horrible, doesn't it? Then you won't believe your ears when we tell you the next horrible assault. But before that, don't forget to like this video and hit that subscribe button for more interesting videos. Number 1. Wooden donkey. One of the most painful tortures, mainly for women, was the wooden donkey. This was like a triangular-shaped wooden structure with some logs or sticks to hold it up. Women who were found guilty of committing adultery were forced to sit on this torture device for hours. This caused permanent injuries, making it incredibly painful for them to walk afterward. To make their punishment even worse, heavy objects were sometimes hung from their feet, making the injuries even more severe. Some wooden donkeys had spikes on the part where the person sat, causing even more harm. This damaged the parts that touched the spikes even worse, and it was a very cruel and terrible experience for these women. Number 2. Death by 1,000 cuts. The scariest punishment in ancient China was called lingxi, or death by 1,000 cuts. This punishment was reserved for the worst criminals and was considered one of the cruelest in history. People who committed really serious crimes like treason, killing their husband, wife, or parents, rebelled against the government, or practicing witchcraft were given this punishment. Here's how it worked. They tied the person to a post by the hands and feet, sometimes giving them opium to numb the pain. Then they would slowly cut pieces of flesh from their body, like slicing meat, and put it in front of them until the person passed out and died. This torture, both physically and mentally, usually lasted about 20 minutes, which must have felt like an eternity for the person enduring it. But there are records of someone enduring this for 12 long hours before finally finding relief. If the family of the condemned person had enough money, they could bribe the person carrying out the punishment to end it quickly and spare their loved one from this terrible suffering. This awful practice started in the 10th century and continued until 1905, when it was finally banned. It's hard to believe that it was only about a century ago that this nightmare was a reality. The last person sentenced to this punishment was an assassin who killed his employer and insulted the empress. His execution was especially gruesome, lasting 3 days, until all the skin was removed from his body. This whole ordeal was documented in shocking photographs thanks to the technology available at that time, which gives us a glimpse of the suffering these prisoners endured. Punishments for a slave in ancient China. In ancient China, there were different categories of punishments designed to keep people in check and ensure that society remained peaceful. These punishments varied for men and women, with women generally receiving less severe punishments because society at that time didn't hold them as responsible for crimes. However, if women committed adultery, murder, or witchcraft, they could face much more cruel tortures or even death. These punishments remain quite consistent throughout the different dynasties in ancient China. They were determined by the seriousness of the crime, the social category a person belonged to, and how harshly they should be dealt with. Number 1. Tattooed faces. The least severe punishment was having the crime they committed tattooed on their faces. The size of the tattoo depended on the seriousness of the crime. This punishment was mainly given to slaves who had run away from their masters or committed petty theft. Number 2. Losing your nose. The next level of punishment involved cutting off a person's nose without any anesthesia. This not only caused extreme pain, but also took away their sense of smell, and in some cases, the ability to breathe through their remaining orifices. It was reserved for those who committed significant theft. Number 3. Amputation. For more heinous crimes, the punishment could be the amputation of one or both feet. In some cases, a person's legs would be opened at the knee, and the kneecap would be removed, leaving them unable to walk for the rest of their life. Number 4. Death in various forms. The ultimate punishment. As a last resort, the ultimate punishment was death in its various forms. This was the most painful and often applied to mass murderers or traitors of the royal family. As time passed, and with the influence of Confucianism, punishments evolved and became less brutal during the beginning of Imperial China. However, the death penalty remained a common practice. It's a stark reminder of the harsh realities of justice in ancient China. Punishments for women in ancient China. In ancient China, the punishments for women were as terrifying as they were relentless. These punishments were specifically designed to extract excruciating pain and ensure complete submission. Let's explore these punishments one by one, shedding light on the harsh realities of women's lives during that time. Number 1. Xing Chong. The endless labor. Imagine being forced to grind grain, a seemingly ordinary task. However, this mundane chore took a sinister turn as women faced the relentless pressure to complete the task within a specific time frame. Failure meant more buckets to grind, amplifying the weight of their punishment and transforming a simple activity into an excruciating test of endurance. Number 2. Zhanxing. Finger torture. Here, 2 court ushers employed sticks to mercilessly squeeze the fingers of the women, aiming to extract confessions or information. The torment inflicted upon their delicate digits was unbearable, leaving these women in agonizing pain, a testament to the ruthless methods used to extract information or confess to a crime. Number 3. Shansing. The brutality of beatings. Wooden staves become instruments of brutality and punishment. Women stood defenseless as each blow landed, causing severe bruising and leaving their bodies battered. The physical scars inflicted on these women served as a haunting reminder of the unforgiving nature of the ancient Chinese justice system. Number 4. Forced suicide. The sinister choice. The next punishment took a sinister turn, compelling women to take their own lives. The haunting choices presented to them were grim: cutting their throats, ingesting poison, or hanging themselves. This macabre twist shifted the burden of execution from the hands of the state to the tormented souls themselves, leaving a chilling legacy of despair and hopelessness. Number 5. Solitary confinement. A lonely existence. Those found guilty of adultery or other moral transgressions faced punishment in the form of solitary confinement. Confined within suffocating walls, these women endured the agony of starvation as their unwelcome companion, gradually weakening their bodies until they withered away, succumbing to a grim end filled with desolation and suffering. The Kangyu, the weight of shame. Another notorious punishment known as the Kangyu or wooden collar was reserved for thieves and fraudsters. This heavy frame bore inscriptions displaying the offender's name, crime, and date, often weighing over 200 pounds. As the offenders endured the physical and mental burden of the Kangyu, many suffered from deterioration, leading to starvation and exhaustion, encapsulating the sheer brutality of the ancient Chinese penal system. These punishments offer a glimpse into the harsh and unforgiving legal system of ancient China, particularly when it came to women who were found guilty of various crimes. They paint a harrowing picture of the extreme measures used to exert control and instill fear within ancient Chinese society. While these practices are a part of history, they serve as a stark reminder of the importance of fair and humane justice systems in our modern world, serving as a stark reminder of the unfathomable suffering endured by women during that era. Now, do you think justice has evolved for the better over time, or are there areas where we can still improve? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this video interesting, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel for more captivating historical explorations.